Wehner Champions Real Estate Team. Joining me today is Russ Williams with Williams Mortgage. So every Wednesday we jump on here, kind of go over what's gone on in the real estate market over the last week. Keep you guys informed and what's going on. So let's jump into our graphics that we use, just kind of with the numbers, what the numbers are telling us. So new listings this last week, we've had 488 new listings. New contracts written was at 291. 554 happy new homeowners. So going back to the new contracts written, so that was about similar to what we were at last week. So we're saying similar activity numbers wise, housing coming on the market, going off the market. Hasn't really changed over the last week. Probably the last couple of weeks, it kind of been hovering there. I think with the volatility in our mortgage rates, they were up to about 7%. They've come down just a little bit. But like we touched on before, buy the house, marry the house, date the rate. I think that's still very prevalent there now. As you see, there's only 291 pending contracts right now. This time, the spring market, that was up there, 400 to 500 houses and things of that sort. So there's still not a lot of the buyer activity. I think our intensity, as we touched on in weeks prior, has gone down a little bit. I have seen a couple multiple offers on houses, so there's still some of that out there with regards to that. So, from a seller's perspective, I still think you've capitalized. If you're still thinking about selling, I still think it's a great time to sell because you've essentially capitalized on the appreciation in the market basically going up over that spring and summer months, and that's basically what we're using for our comparable market analysis is those numbers, but we have to put that in perspective that was at the height. Let's say a house sold for 400,000, maybe it was listed at 375, but since there was 5-10 offers on that house, it drove it up $25,000. So we just have to be mindful as a seller and as working with you to know exactly where we need to price that house. Because if we come out, say 400,000 and our housing market's going up, let's go up to 415. Let's try the market. Well, you're listing at potentially a $375,000 house at 415, and it's going to probably fall somewhere in that range. But it just depends on the condition of the house, location of the house, a lot of different variables. And that's stuff that we want to go over with you on an individual basis and kind of go over what's gone on in the market in your area, because every house is different, every situation is different and unique. And that's the part that's the fun part about being in real estate is all those unique aspects of the business and helping and coaching and educating our clients through that process so that we can maximize selling your home or even buying your home. Because some of those houses that if we're working with buyers and that house is priced at 415, it's been on the market for a little while. You look back at the market, a couple months ago, they were starting at 375. Well, maybe, if that seller's being logical and understanding and their agents being educational to them, coming in at maybe a little bit lower offer, if it's been sitting there, is still a fair price for that house, and so that's some of those things that on both sides of the coin, you got to be educated through that process of it. So we'll jump straight and then we'll check out kind of the 30,000 foot view here. Let me get out of that one and pull this other one up here. So 30,000 foot view with Omaha and Lincoln MLS. We had literally exactly 2,400 homes that were on the market. So then we had 1,400 homes in the Douglas and Sarpy County area, so the Omaha metro area, 613 existing homes for your viewing pleasure, and then 788 new construction houses that are available in that Douglas Sarpy County area. Months of inventory hasn't really changed, been around that 1 to 1.4 for the last couple months or so. Our average sold price still at that 317, went up a little bit a couple weeks ago, kind of staying right there, about 13%, increase from last year. That's the other thing we touched on in weeks prior to is honestly, the market, as Russ and I were talking before we got on here, is that, as those prices are going up, our income necessarily isn't always going up as fast as what this. So I think at some point, I don't necessarily see the housing market like taking a crash or taking a huge dip. Obviously, things go in cycles, go up and go down. But with still the supply and demand, and there's still a lot of demand out there, that we may not see 13% increases year over year. Maybe it's a 5%, 4%, which is usually what our average was. It was about a 4% average increase in that appreciation. So still a great time to buy and sell. But most importantly, when you're buying a house, we got to get the financing aspect of it. And let's jump in with Russ here and kind of see what's going on in the mortgage industry. So how are we seeing rates? I know last week we were touching, there are going to be more data points coming out on what's going on. So we'll see how it's going.
Yeah, Mark, thank you. There's a lot of data coming out. A lot of folks, uncertainty pulls people back a little bit and maybe removes them from the market. And I'd encourage them that we need to look at history as well as current data to get a good idea of what's happening and whether or not it is a good time to buy or sell. And I happen to still believe it's a very good time to buy. As you pointed out, inventory is down a little bit, which is what national data is suggesting to us. Over the last month, we've seen purchase applications fall off by 29% roughly at the same time that interest rates rose to roughly 20-year highs. So we could surmise from that data that a significant factor that's driving the reduction in buyers out there is concern over the interest rate market. Mark, every week we're talking in here about what is likely to happen with mortgage rates based upon what the Federal Reserve Bank and other central banks around the world are trying to do. Just this week, the United Nations, for example, started to put some pressure on central banks around the world to try to keep them from raising their short-term rates, much like our Fed funds rates, over fear of kicking the world economy into a recession. And as we've talked about, Mark, we know that during recessionary periods, interest rates typically tend to move downwards, maybe not right away during the recession, but they do start to move down as we start to see inflation getting under control. What's also interesting is if you were to compare the short-term rate that we have here in the US to the short-term rates of other countries, we actually have a higher short-term rate for things like credit card, student loans, and auto loans compared to other major industrialized countries. So for the UN and even some other central banks to see a recession on the horizon is quite likely, quite possible. But the reason why it's such a great time to buy is inventory is up just a little bit, which means buyers have more options to choose from. We can maybe approach sellers now with asking for some seller contributions or asking for home inspection sorts of things that maybe weren't available before. But we're still seeing lots of multiple offer situations. And for those folks that are saying, property valuations aren't rising as quickly, well, how quickly do we really want them to rise? 10 to 15% mark is not necessarily healthy for this market. But 3 to 5%, to your point, is a very healthy market here. We also don't see it going dramatically the other way. So interest rates are a little higher than what we like them to be now, but certainly if interest rates are to drop, if we do have that recession hit, that likely could pull more buyers back into the market, meaning you might have more competition, and that home price, especially in the entry-level price points, is likely to be equivalent or higher. So why not buy the house now, enjoy it, and we'll mirror the house and date the rate and redo that when the rates come down, whether it be 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it might be. So I completely agree with you, Mark.
Yeah, and then ultimately with what happened was it last week with the Hurricane Ivan, with those, with that whole, the destruction that they had down there, unfortunately, there's going to be more lumber and all that stuff's going to have to be rebuilt. So that could be an affect some of the new construction side of it as we move down the road on that side of it. So I think it's still a great time to buy and sell in that avenue. I know you talked about the appreciation going up at, double digits right now. Well, if we also look at in Nebraska with our property taxes, that the Douglas County and the assessor's office, Sarpy counties, all the county assessor offices, we saw another jump in our property taxes in June. Those valuations came out and everyone's like, oh my gosh, my property valuation went up. My taxes are going up X amount. Well, they are because by the state law, I believe it's 97, 93% of market value is what they're supposed to be for that tax valuation. So as those properties, even if you're not in the buying or selling aspect of the real estate side of it, and if you're obviously a homeowner, and even on the renter side of it, is that's why rents are going up as well, because those appreciations of those homes, that assessor is going to come back and say, okay, well, your valuation went up $20,000, $30,000 on your valuation, in that regards, and then that's just going to, from a real estate investor, that's mostly going to get passed on to that renter as the rents go up, and then obviously for the homeowner, your monthly payments going up, so it's more money going out than coming in. So that's just one of those things, like you said, sustainability of those double digits increase. Yes, it's great, but everything has its pros and its cons with regards to that. The other thing is that appreciation goes up, you gain more equity. You can, get a home equity line of credit, a HELOC. If you do have credit card debt, that I was just meeting with the lender yesterday on a HELOC. I'm talking about them. Their rates are at 5.25%. for their HELOC. If you got 16, 20% on a credit card, you have some equity, you can pay that down. And if you get a 5-year HELOC or 10-year HELOC and you get that rate at 6% or 5.25%, that may be some, advantages to pay that debt off first, or you turn around and you go invest that money into a real estate investment property and use real estate to buy real estate. In that matter. So there's a lot of different avenues that we'd love to chat with you about. If you have questions, comments, as we say, we don't have all the answers, but we can find them for you or get you in the people that know that information. That's why I have somebody like Russ on here every week from the mortgage side of it, because I know enough to be dangerous in the mortgage industry, but he's the expert on that side of it. So we just try to surround ourselves with people that can help our clients, customers, friends, and family and such. So, but appreciate everyone joining on this week and listen to us. If you listen to us later, comment on us. Our contact information is right here on the screen. So feel free to text me, call me, email me, or give Russ a holler at 290-8936. We are happy to help you. And, and just kind of, if you want another person just to throw an idea off of, whether it's a good time to buy, sell, or even get in the real estate investment game, we're happy to help you. So, but give us a holler, and thank you again for listening, and have a great week. Enjoy the nice weather out there. So do you have anything else you want to add, Russ?
Nope, I think you covered it. Go buy houses. It's a great time.
Yep. All right.